Okay. Um, yeah, so I got how you doing tonight? Back I was supposed to be on at 10 o'clock, but the guy actually decided to come on early, Mr. Sullivan. And this is gonna be very interesting because he has firsthand information on BLM. And I would rather want somebody like him to break it down than me. Even though on BLM, um, I, would like to, kind of like let him do it. He was there when it started. He knows more about it. And he could, answer questions probably for people who, um, have got some questions and answers. So, with that being said, CJ, if you're out there, come on into the room and you can introduce yourself and explain everything that you got to say. Um, Anytime you want to come back in the room, come on, let's get this party rolling. Um, you see where he's at. I just text him. All right, let's see. Oh shoot, come back in. Yeah. Well, anyway, but yeah. So we're going to talk about the origin of how Black Lives Matter started. We're going to talk about everything. Patrisse Cullors just blocked us. All right, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. Thank you to you, Yoda, Yakura, let me tell you something, brother. I watched that thing with her on at African Diaspora News Channel now, but it was the Vice show then probably about 5 years ago, and I know about four now. And she talked about how BLM was financed by white liberals. She talked about it. And she went on the show. This was when a lot of people were, and I said, and I finally found her on Facebook one day, and I said, let me find this one. And she responded back. It took her a while, but she responded back to me. And I think that she responded back to me because that, helped me to link with you. Because actually, this is supposed to be her, but she said she had some things going on. So I'm glad that she was able to actually connect me to you. So um, we're going to make this a two-part series because I got to get her on too later.
Definitely.
And probably got it with so much information, probably a three-part series.
Man, you get as many parts as you want. It's sad as it is, man. It's sad as it is.
Well, go ahead and explain yourself and tell you who you are. I'm
Okay.
very interested.
All right. My name's CJ Sullivan. I'm from Bowling Green, Kentucky. I went to Bowling Green High School, then went to Georgetown College, then came up to Chicago, worked with Aflac a little bit, and then started doing my own thing. So that's kind of, I guess, a little bit of my background. I started doing the movement 2009 is when we officially registered the business, which is the media platform for the movement. And then it was 2014, August 4/20, 2014, that we finally got things up and running.
Okay. Now, I know since you were in Ferguson too.
No.
You didn't go to Ferguson.
That's a lie that Black Lives Matter tells to try to position themselves in the movement. The movement.
I know.
Yeah. I was actually, when Ferguson happened, we were doing our media thing. So we kind of had the online presence. So like the hashtags, we kind of did we marketed to like artists, we promoted artists. So we had been building up the movement 4 months prior to Ferguson.
Okay.
So when Ferguson started, the reason that people get them confused from some of the Ferguson, like the local people, is because I actually helped them organize. So the movement was actually an organizing strategy.
Okay.
So like the movement was a slogan for the movement. That's what we call it. Like even like when they're talking about police corruption now, you hear it called the movement. And that's because the organizing, like that was one of our core issues from the organizing from 420 up to Ferguson, then helping them out all the way up until this day.
Okay, so what you're saying, because when I look at Black Lives Matter, and I realized that, I mean, when I watched them and how they moved, I went and tracked them down. I said, oh, they really tried to kick off doing Trayvon Martin, but they really couldn't kick it off then. They didn't have enough juice.
Yeah.
But now,
yeah. Go ahead.
But they got juiced up and they jumped off y'all back in Ferguson. So really, to tell you the truth, y'all were never Black Lives Matter. Y'all were doing something different, and they just stamped their name on it.
And then defamed us. I mean, Darren Seals isn't here. He was kind of like the bridge between the movement and Ferguson. He may have been actually the first person that I talked to in Ferguson, if not one of the first ones. So, I mean, we couldn't get on social media to defend ourselves. Twitter ended up kicking us off the movement. And while we were trending, they actually were doing shadow banning and doing things to people who were like part of the movement and promoting it. So, I mean, there's so much to go into as far as like Black Lives Matter and you know, all the things that they've done to sabotage the movement, which includes what was being done for police corruption and for our community. That, I mean, you got to start at the beginning, get the facts straight. And then, I mean, you really have to talk to people because it's not just myself. They tried to steal my brand, steal my business, and defame me, but they did the same thing to people all across the country, everybody that was in the movement. They pretty much silenced them on social media, wouldn't allow them to speak up. They did the same thing to Ferguson, the leadership in Ferguson. And you can ask them, you'll find that out next week. So they were doing this to people all across the country. And then what they would do was they would insert people from Black Lives Matter and then have them fraudulently represent the movement. So they were blacklisting us, and then they would have Black Lives Matter represent us.
Okay, question. Because I'm going to let you start from the beginning, and you know, but let's see here. The question I got is, how did Deray McKesson, Brittany Packnett, Brittany Farrell, Alexis Templeton, and all them other charlatans, they put them out front? Netta and all them, they put them out front.
Deray represented me. Deray, when the movement started, Deray was an administrative aide in Minnesota. Deray's not even from Ferguson. So Deray had no hand in starting the movement, and he had no hand in starting Ferguson. Like, you can go back to media records when he tries to describe it, he completely erases Ferguson. And he doesn't even mention the movement, the history of the movement. So he wasn't even there. He was in Minnesota when Ferguson kicked off. So by the time that Deray was there, they already had their leadership. You know, that's how I ran into Darren and other people.
Well, yeah, Darren King, these seals. And speaking of now, so right now, I just want you to just talk about how it all started. I'm gonna sit back and listen.
Do you want to start with the movement, or do you want to start with the Ferguson, or do you want me to go through how it all evolved?
Start with the movement, and then you get into Ferguson. I'm gonna sit back and listen. I got questions. Anybody in chat? Anybody in chat ask questions? I'll let them answer. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Now, just I guess I've got to be brief. If you have more questions about certain things, let me know. But there's just so much to unpack from them that I just want you to get the facts, and then you can start to ask me questions, because I know things from an inside perspective. I don't know what the public doesn't know. So your questions are helpful. But as far as the movement goes, it was a business. It wasn't a nonprofit. I started with there was 3 of my best friends and a programmer helped me start it. So we had a media platform, we had a radio, we had news, we had video, and we actually had a social media platform. So when the movement first started, you could actually go to a social media platform and talk to people from the movement, and you could organize groups on the movement and, you know, get news from the movement, that type of thing. So I'll get into that later. That's post-Ferguson, when we had to take everything down because of what Black Lives Matter was doing. So we launched with the media platform, and we just kind of had the concept of revolution. But it didn't start like physical revolution, even though like some of our issues, we knew, you know, there was going to be protests involved and stuff like that. It was actually a tech tech innovation that I won't even go into because we have some stuff coming up pretty soon. But we launched the media platform. We had done a lot of organizing from 2009 till 2014. I think I had like 2 failed attempts of trying to launch the movement. But the entire time, I was organizing people, telling people what it's about, what we're trying to do. So that period was from 2009 to 2014. 2014, we finally launched. We have organizing strategy. We have a game plan. We have our issues that we've talked about. We've thought through why we want to approach things in a certain way. And so we launched, and we had success. Our news was probably our biggest draw early on, just because we brought in our issues in a unique way. It wasn't a focus on just us. When I did a media company, I wanted it to be for everybody, but I wanted to give us a voice and other groups who don't have a voice as well. So that was kind of my focus going in. So because of our audience, a lot of people, they didn't know about the issues. We would post police corruption videos and stuff like that before, and they would start to go viral because people just didn't believe that it was going on. And I don't know if it had to do with the timing of the cell phone. Everybody has a cell phone camera or what, but that's kind of how I guess things started out initially. So we had success initially marketing. I would say, I think it's, I have the actual time stamp, but it's actually, I think June of that year is when we actually started using the movement as like a business name and started organizing specifically as the movement. So at that time we had 2 shows lined up. We had a couple artists that wanted to work with us. Promotion was going great. We had the hashtags, they were trending. We had artists tweeting out to us that wanted, to play the music. So basically we were a promotion engine at that time, but we combined our music, and our entertainment with the political side as well. So the entire time we were bringing in people who we thought might be like-minded towards those issues. So things continued to grow, and we were actually like trending top 10 on Twitter. This is prior to Ferguson. So things were blowing up. And when we started, trending, they would, I guess you call it shadow ban, the hashtag, where you can't see, like, you may not be able to see 5 hours worth of the timeline, but there literally back then, like there could be like 100 posts, so people can't even see what's on the movement, and we're communicating. It's a online community at that point, so you can wake up and you can go and, somebody just post something inspirational. Somebody else has, there's a dance competition that somebody had, just all these different things, and you could tag the movement, and then it's like it became a movement. Everybody like, what is the movement? Oh, we're doing this. This is the movement. It became a whole culture and a whole online community. And outside of the issues, like we were rallying around entertainment, like music, like indie hip hop, different things. So we had a whole system to balance out like the activism side, because the activism side, especially when you get into the police corruption, is just, it drains you. It drains you. I'm sure I don't have to explain it to you. But we actually had a system that balanced that out so that, okay, like even if you're not doing activism, you're still going to be getting that messaging. Like you may come to the site or go to the movement because you like music, but now you're getting, images of, the police corruption that's going on or other types of discrimination. So all of it was kind of intertwined so that everybody's becoming aware, of these issues. But, we're also doing it in a way where people are entertained and it's fun and it's not just about, I guess, Black death, pain, and suffering or any pain, and death and suffering. So that was kind of like the initial concept of the movement and how we came in to Ferguson. And the movement was age-based. It wasn't race-based. And the official, I wrote it down. The official definition was the movement was a political, social, and economic revolution of our generation. So that was like the official definition, and something on that with Deray, because at that time Ferguson and the movement had merged, and I'll go back and explain the start of Ferguson. But at that time, everybody pretty much was working with Anonymous, exposing exposing different things. I would say that they were working with Anonymous. And I remember the day that I came up with the definition, because Deray just kept, hanging around me, kept hanging around Ferguson, and wanted to, he didn't have a purpose of being there, but he was always like wanting to center himself. So anyways, we have a mutual contact through Anonymous. I come up with the definition. Like, I don't know if I kicked Deray out at that point, but I pretty much told everybody, like, this guy's not welcome in the movement. The next day, Deray's working with that guy. He steals the definition, and you see the Black Lives Matter people trying to use the definition. Like, that's how fast things happen. Like, things would literally happen in real time. You would do something, they would react. And then they would have all the leverage with the media to discredit you and defame you. So, okay.
Okay. So the question I got, because I got some notes here. Well, I think it was like November 5th or something. You had Obama come down there and give them like a stipend of $7.5 million. And they were in the street, because when I looked at the Ferguson protest, I saw white guys out there with communist flags. Deray got arrested, but like this woman is saying right here, he was an infiltrator. Yes, he was, because he was arrested, but he already was given bail. They just told him to go out there and play a role. I mean, him, Brittany Farrell. As a matter of fact, Brittany Farrell and Lexi Templeton got married around that same time too. We had, and then you had, now I did see Darren Seals there. And I know Darren Seals had an incident with Deray McKesson when he slapped Deray, because Deray was trying. But I want you to explain something that happened there. They were using their phones and using PayPal through the crowd so you could donate to them. Correct.
I didn't even know that. I mean, it's possible.
Okay, but they got you to donate to this movement, but nothing came out of it.
They would use, like they would say, sometimes you're donating to Ferguson. Sometimes they would say that you're donating to the movement. Deray's friend, Charles Wade, I actually caught him. And I won't even say what I said to him, but I called him out because he was soliciting funds on behalf of the movement, because the movement has credibility. They're going to solicit funds on anything that has credibility, just like as bad as it is to say these police killings, where, the next killing comes up and then all of a sudden, they're back out there, but they had literally just quit 5 months ago. Like, this is the type of organization that Black Lives Matter is. So they're going to mislead to the public that they're representing Ferguson, because Ferguson's a hot spot where everything's going on and where all the donations are coming in. But they're going to position themselves in front of the actual grassroots organizers of Ferguson, so that when you donate, it goes to Black Lives Matter and not to the Ferguson residents. And so they would do that by selling, using somebody like Deray, saying, they could literally send Deray out there and say, hey, I represent Ferguson, I donate to, X, Y, and Z. And there's no way that the public, doesn't know, like, or knows that he's not a part of Ferguson. I mean, to this day, like, people don't know anything about the history of Black Lives Matter. They don't know about the history of Ferguson, about the movement. And it's because they've been able to hold this story for over 6 years.
Okay, let me say something. And then they used Kaepernick to try to push it too.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead with your question. Now I'll kind of backtrack on some information I think is relevant.
Because I find it. I'm gonna tell you, but I realized in November of 2015, Deray McKesson went to a GLAAD, or Gay Lesbian Alliance or whatever, and so that's when I read and checked on Deray, because Deray also would Teach for America, so would Brittany Packnett.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a red flag. Number two, they were in the White House sitting with Obama talking about broken windows policing and reimagining policing in the 21st century. So when you saw the picture of them up there in the White House of Obama, you had to know that, all right, this is not a movement, because what Obama did to y'all, well, I don't know, you might not have been there, but daggone in Ferguson, he used that psyop of what happened
Yeah.
And then they used it to put all them militarized police there. It made that thing like a little war zone camp. You had guys getting locked up in jail. And let me tell you something. The guys with you didn't get no bail, but Deray and all them got bail out.
Deray, we actually found out Deray was a federal informant during Ferguson.
Yep.
We knew that he was trying to sell out everything. And this is the part that I wanted to backtrack on. This started with business, and there were other businesses involved as we grew that were helping things grow. And we were also trying to help, artists and other people in media, amateurs, not, the celebrities and the big names. Black Lives Matter, they don't have a business. They don't even own their brand. I found that out yesterday. They don't own Black Lives Matter. They can't even trademark it because they don't provide any services or products. So they didn't start any movement. Speaking of Black Lives Matter, Deray McKesson, Sean King, all of them. When it comes to the movement, they didn't start it. When it comes to Ferguson, they didn't start it. They waited until the movement and Ferguson had already organized together. Our leadership had already organized. Deray McKesson went on national television, I think it was MSNBC, fraudulently represented myself by selling to the public that he was representing the movement, and then began discrediting me. And at that point, I just thought that it was all about the money, because he was getting sponsored and stuff like that, and I was getting blacklisted, he was telling lies to Ferguson about me and just trying to cause a whole bunch of confusion. It wasn't until the WikiLeaks, it may have been 2016 because of the presidential election, the WikiLeaks came out, and we got to see the internal emails of the DNC. And this is not like low-level DNC staffers. These are the executives of the DNC that run the entire organization. And they had the email with Deray saying that he's giving them information. And then it even goes into detail about how they're using the Black Lives Matter movement to try to influence the election. So at that point, Deray became not just an opportunist who was trying to sell out, Black businesses for profit, but an actual counterintelligence agent, because he was using the Democrats, the power of the DNC, as well as the power of the media to discredit everybody in the movement and to sabotage everything that we were trying to do. And when I say sabotage everything that we were trying to do, we were trying to do multiple things. We weren't just addressing police corruption and racism. We were also building economics. We were also addressing other social issues. But by Black Lives Matter coming in, ruining our reputation, defaming everybody, stealing all the resources, everything got sabotaged, everything. Even the hashtags, initially the hashtags were set up in a way to help keep us safe. Black Lives Matter couldn't even let that exist without centering themselves because they had to be the biggest hashtag and sabotaging the hashtags. So, okay, it's Black Lives Matter now, but you have no system to keep protesters safe because you're not checking the hashtags to keep up with the activists that are down on the ground using them. So, there's so many small details that the public doesn't know about strategies that we couldn't necessarily talk about at the time, where they would infiltrate, they would try to get somebody inside and they would sabotage. And Deray, he's informing the DNC, and you've seen how the Democrats have treated Ferguson and the movement and, these issues of police corruption. So, yeah.
There's a little story I want to bring to you right here and try to find it. So, there's a little story here. This is from May 26, 2015. Ferguson protesters were promised up to $5,000 a month to demand, and they had to protest, demand payment from organizations linked to Soros. So George Soros had guys out there protesting, but some of them weren't even getting paid for what they were doing.
I think they got paid initially, and then they cut them off. They just cut them off, which, it was even bad on their part. You should have paid them just so you could have kept getting away with what you were getting away with, but they stopped paying them and cutting them off. And that's how, the whole story about all the protesters getting paid, that's how that initially came out, once they stopped getting paid. And once they were getting paid, I mean, they were branding Black Lives Matter. Like Black Lives Matter was a network that was paying them. So it was the grassroots, 100% grassroots, no outside funding, whatever we scraped together, versus Black Lives Matter. And it was like, if you weren't Black Lives Matter, you're not going to get any airtime, you're not getting resources. And then they were doing such a good campaign of like discrediting leaders that, a lot of times leaders couldn't even, execute whatever plans they were trying to execute.
So basically, they had everything.
Yeah. They paid protesters, and they weren't. I mean, it wasn't just like they weren't paying them for us. Let's put it like that. They weren't paying them for us. They were paying them to be employees, to promote whatever they wanted them to promote.
Lady said, "So sorry to happen to you. Sound like you put a lot of work into it."
Yeah, it was 5 years before Ferguson that I was working on it, and this entire time I funded it by myself. I haven't collected a single dime, a penny off of this, a penny. They told me when I came out with our content, we were too controversial. Then Ferguson kicks off, Black Lives Matter kicks off, and everybody has our content, and we're blacklisted.
Okay, now I want to speak about the young brother, Darren King, DC, of DeAndre Joshua, and it was about, well, I mean, I could name go on and on because they say it was like 6, but it was more activists that got killed than that. So how were they catching up to them? Because obviously they were coming out, they knew who the leaders of the real movement were, and they wanted to take them out.
Yeah.
Darren didn't die on his own.
No.
So how did you know Darren Seals, and when he was assassinated, what were your thoughts and feelings of that?
I met him like right after the Mike Brown situation. I think it was either Saturday or Sunday. I saw a YouTube video of a guy from St. Louis talking about they had just shot a teenager. And, I'm 4 months into having my platform. That's one of my issues. And I've actually had my own experiences as well. So I was like, oh, man, like we got to get on this case. We had the traffic, we had credibility. I was like, we got to get on this case. So at first I was trying to find a witness, which at the time I didn't know that as soon as, somebody becomes a witness, I guess they silence him or, you can't get to him. So I was trying to find a witness at first to verify any type of information. And eventually I came across Darren, probably because like he was active on social media, because that was our realm, social media. So I reached out to him, just trying to figure out what was going on. And he was just very skeptical at first. I guess there were other people coming in, trying to, I don't know if they were, there to try to help or hurt, other groups like Black Lives Matter or whatever. But he was just very skeptical. And I ended up like telling him like everything that we were doing, which is, stupid looking back at it at the time. But I remember he just cut me off mid-sentence. At that point, he was just like, if this guy's going to tell me that much, then, he's obviously not up to something. And so I would just use him as kind of a contact to keep tabs on what's going on the ground, and verify information and stuff like that. And he wasn't the only one. There was other people I was in contact with too, but he was, I guess, my closest contact. We communicated the most out of the people in Ferguson. He never like, he spoke the truth. He spoke the truth. From the time I knew him, he spoke the truth. And that's what like drew me to him. Like we didn't agree on everything. We didn't have, same ideology on everything, but he told the truth. I could respect that, and I knew that, if we were going to do stuff together, I could at least trust him to be honest with me, and everybody coming together, everybody's complete strangers. So, everybody, you kind of find people that you connect with. And for me, trust is a big one. And, having a media company, I also have to make sure that I don't put out any false information or stuff, or at least I thought that back then before Black Lives Matter. But, I didn't want to lose my business by putting out false information or, and it's also like if something's going on in Ferguson, you want to talk to people in Ferguson. You don't want to talk to somebody who just flew in there, a week ago or when everything started happening and try to get the whole dynamics of a place that you've never been to. So one of my strategies is to get close on the ground, get to people who either with the police corruption issues either represent the family or represent the organizers who are organizing the protests. So that's how me and Darren, kind of connected. And so he knew everything that was going on with the movement because I would update him on the movement, and he knew everything that was going on with Ferguson on the ground. So when Black Lives Matter was trying to run their games, he already knew what we were trying to do, and he already knew what they were trying to do in Ferguson. So he was calling them out on their BS the entire time. Dead accurate with everything that he said. And, they just discredit him, start making threats towards him, and they're the ones that are lying, and I got caught up into it because they're trying to steal my brand, and my business that's attached to it, and our movement, at this key time, it's just, you would be surprised at people that took up for people who were abusing people who were lying, people who were stealing when it comes to the Black Lives Matter crowd. A lot of those people today that are trying to say, that they're mad about what happened, they were doing it to us back when everything started. Then they got cut out. Then they got mad. So, I mean, they threw him under the bus. They threw Darren under the bus. When he died, we had actually recovered the organizing because they put out the lies initially. They try to turn people against us, turn leaders against each other. But we were talking to each other. You can't talk to Black Lives Matter, but I can shoot a message to Darren, I can shoot a message to Tori or shoot a message to somebody else. So we would all talk, and we all came to the conclusion, these are the only people that are lying. So we were all able to talk. We were able to actually recover the organizing at one point, even after Black Lives Matter tried to claim that they were the movement, try to tell all these lies. We recover the organizing. We organized literally all across the country. We were talking with the organizer out in LA. So we had literally within the period of 2 days, and this was it probably took months to recover the organizing. Within 2 days, Darren was assassinated. I was just I was waiting just to see what he posts, because I check, people from the movement, what they post, and, you just see Rip D. Seals. And I won't go into, too much detail. I'm in Chicago, up here in Chicago. We just had the Adam Toledo situation.
Yeah, I see that.
If you see my eyes looking funny, that got to me. I'm going to block it out. But, people who are connected to people who, are going through this stuff are going through it. So, I'll just stop it there. But he told me.
I want to say something here, but I find it mighty funny that during this George Floyd trial, they had this Dwayne Wright situation, right? And this was just last week. Patrisse Cullors was exposed. Well, she's already been exposed, actually, but just a little bit more exposed. But and I want you to explain some things about her, Gaza, and the other woman. But I want to ask you a question. Don't you find it funny though that in the same George Floyd thing here, now they had this, so that distracts from Patrisse Cullors what they were talking about. And then I went to their page and they were saying donate to Minnesota Change.org and all these organizations for what? For this brother Wright that got killed. So I find it very suspicious every time they have something happens, or maybe some of them are staged. Who knows? But I find it mighty peculiar every time this happens. They're already in the city, already there on the ground raising money. I've been to Chicago where you at. They got buses in Chicago to transport them around. I forgot which street. They got buses out there literally transporting these people around, and they got a Black Lives Matter building where they got buses. I think it was 10 buses out there or something.
Wow.
So, or whatever. It might have been more, but they got buses in Chicago. They bus these people around the country. And that's how they can get in a in a city so fast, because there's no way they're already out there. It's almost like clockwork. As soon as they do it, They're already there. Like
Yeah.
you're not you can organize, but it has to be from the neighborhood. Most of these people I see, most of them are white, not from the neighborhood. And then I have a sneaking suspicion. Well, not a suspicion, actually it's a fact. Notice, I don't know how it went in Ferguson, but they did burn that Quick Trip. I remember her telling me that. But notice they always got bricks and stuff and Antifa and everybody's lined up to do burning and stuff. And then they re-breaking the stores. But they don't tell you this. The people who go in them stores are on camera, on surveillance. They get arrested. They taking advantage of the opportunity. These other people are getting off. We had them come here to Richmond. They came to Richmond, Virginia last summer in Newport News and Norfolk and other cities. And I find it mighty peculiar that these people are always going to an area that's always targeted for gentrification. Don't you find that kind of funny?
I mean, they basically are gentrifiers.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah. But when I look at how they move, they got mostly lesbian women. I don't see a lot of black men out there as much as I used to. You did see them in Ferguson, but a lot of black men found out what this was really about and they left. They just said, I'm not going to be in it. Mm-hmm. So you got just women that just running around, and then you got the woman, what's the woman name? District attorney name. You got in St. Louis, what is Gardner or something? District attorney?
Kim Gardner.
Yeah. And I know you know about Cori Bush and everybody else. Cori Bush is in the House of Representatives now. Now she was there, but Cori Bush is actually really not even talking about that stuff no more. She's talking about LGBTQ rights and stuff. But what I did want to know was when it came, because Darren, I go back and look at Darren's posts every now and then from back then. I'm surprised it's still up.
Yeah, same here.
But he was saying a lot of stuff exposing it. He was calling them every name in the book. He talked about how they got hijacked. I mean, Darren really did a lot of exposing. So when I look at the whole movement and how it went down, I will say this. Like I said, when they went to the White House with Obama, that was the red flag right there. Because I'm like, why would Obama be hanging around with a group that he just signed a blue alert law to protect police officers in the March of that year? And this was with bipartisan support too. This was not just no Democrats, and they both agreed to do this to protect police officers. I find it mighty funny that Deray was at the White House. What's it? You know that lady named Netta that they talk about?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a sellout.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I want you to. So you have probably ran into Patrisse Cullors and Elisa Garza. You met them before. You never ran into them.
They avoid me. All of this, if they would have ran into me 6 years ago, they wouldn't be in existence right now.
Okay.
They didn't even tell people like what they were like signing up for. Like when it comes to Black Lives Matter, they didn't even disclose like this is what we're doing in Black Lives Matter. Like they had to piggyback onto what we were doing, because if people would have known what Black Lives Matter was about, nobody would have supported them in the first place. You know, and that's the difference with Ferguson and what we were doing and other stuff and things that have taken off in other places is like people actually did what they said that they did. Like whether it's organized protest, whether, you know, it's a food drive, whether you're trying to, you know, whatever you're doing, like people actually did it, you know, like for Black Lives Matter and Patrisse Cullors and them to come out and try to take over something that they've never had success at. And then you remove the people that are having success, and then you put in things that like people don't even want or don't even agree with. Like it's because of the context, it's disgusting because people were already dying. They were already targeting leaders and activists. Every single leader from the movement was targeted, including myself. So while we're trying to actually organize to save our lives and to address these issues, they're being clowns on television. Literally trying to get traffic to redirect to whatever they're trying to do. without helping the people who are actually fighting to keep us safe. And not only that, they're discrediting the people that are trying to keep us safe because they want to do whatever they want to do, whether it's women's issues with no men allowed, or LGBT issues, or whatever it is. Not saying that, those are wrong issues, but we are literally dying. Like, we are literally dying. And you came in, waltzed in, sabotage the infrastructure that's keeping us safe, sabotage the leaders that got it to this point. And then you come in with like something that you just thought up in a boardroom, like, oh, let's just, come up with this feminism campaign, and their ideology doesn't even add up. Like, let's just come up with this and we're just going to sprinkle it in at this police corruption movement, where people are dying at, but when like the actual history of them and the links that they've gone to actually discredit people, that was their intention the entire time. They actually bragged when they went to Ferguson, and I can actually probably get in contact with the person who made this claim. They brag. I think it was Ezel Ford was killed like either right before or right after Michael Brown Jr. And Black Lives Matter is from LA. So after they go to Ferguson, I think they were in Ferguson only like a weekend. People don't even know that. They were in Ferguson a weekend, branded and left, went back to LA. This woman is claiming that she was bragging that when they get back to LA, it's going to be the Black Lives Matter campaign or movement as opposed to like the Justice for Ezel Ford movement. So like, that's her mindset. Like, it was never about justice. Like, you want to put your brand in front of literally, the people trying to get justice, and that's why I go back to, the beginning of, they don't have a brand. They're not a business. Like, they're not running a nonprofit like a nonprofit. They're trying to run it like a business, and worse than a business because they're discrediting and defaming, like, like actual leaders. Like, they're counted, like whatever you're trying to do, they're going to try to sabotage.
Okay, now, so I want to ask a question. When you found out about $3.4 million sales and houses and you didn't surprise you at all because it's a hustle.
Yeah.
But then they released a statement the other day. And guess what she said? They said that this is right-wing propaganda and that's attacking us. No, this is regular Black folks attacking you, and you trying to use Republican attacking you. I mean, I can't help the Kansas Owens and them went on the news and said that. But this is mostly coming from underground. And now, just today, and anybody that's online can pull up on that phone right now, and guess what you'll find out? That Twitter, Facebook, I think it's Facebook actually, is blocking information on Patrisse Cullors of posting the story due to privacy concerns, saying that you're using her personal information. Look here, man. If you want to find out my goddamn house and find out what I built and what I paid for it, you can do it. Why am I not allowed to get Patrisse Cullors' personal information of her real estate dealing? You can find real estate anywhere else, but they won't let you post this? It doesn't make sense.
They've censored it since the beginning. That's all. That's our whole game. Like, what you're doing tonight, they can't dispute it. They can't come out and dispute any of this. They can't come in public. That's why they always do a press release. It's always one-sided, and you never hear from the other person. They wouldn't even meet with the mothers. And they actually had a smear campaign against the mothers, calling them agents of the state. They call them agents of the state. Like,
Sean King, Sean King, Tamika Mallory, all of them call agents of the state.
I'm from Kentucky. I organized. He's not even Black. This guy, like, he came in, it was September 30th, like, randomly started writing, and one of his first articles was like, Black Lives Matter is leading the movement in Ferguson. He ain't from the movement. He wasn't in Ferguson. And eventually he had to back away from Black Lives Matter because he was catching too much heat. He didn't talk to anybody. He didn't talk to a single source. He wrote a prop piece to position Black Lives Matter over both of our movements in national media, where he came out of nowhere because he was a pastor before that. He's a liar. He ain't gonna come out on that. He won't talk about that. He ain't gonna say God told him it or anything like that in public. But anyways, he went from a random mega church pastor who scammed people to climb mountains to all of a sudden you're a social justice writer writing about things that you don't know anything about and you're not even black. Like, think about the audacity. Like, that's how crazy this story is. Like, how are you going to pretend to be black and then be an expert on how we feel? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, that's the stupid shit that he's on. Like, so, I mean, even like on the issues of racism and stuff like that, I mean, they can point to him and be like, man, like, your issues aren't even legit. Like, look at this guy. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, that's how far out of control the Black Lives Matter situation, like, has gone. And these people know that. Their leadership. Like, it's a whole, like, it was a whole performance. They did the same thing to Ferguson. Ferguson saved me because they were doing the same thing to Ferguson that they were doing to me. And we were able to compare notes. And eventually that's how they got caught up. They probably just would have done it to me. They probably would have got away with it. If they probably just would have done it to Ferguson and I wasn't there, they probably would have got away with it. But because they did it to both groups and we compared notes and we actually knew each other, we were able to catch them and then we were able to start identifying them. And the crazy thing is the connection between all the Black Lives Matter people is the money. You follow the money, you'll see who's taking up for each other. You'll see like where the money's coming from. Like, it's only a very few sources at the top that's funding all of this stuff. You know, it's making all those donations, all that economic prosperity, all that flow. So they're making it flow to their designated people around us. But they're using our issues and they're using our work and they're using our innovation and they're using our movement. And we get nothing. We work for free and they make all the profits. And then you got Deray to go on television and sell it to the public because he was the one that sold us out in the first place. And he doesn't even have a business.
Okay, question. Because you say it's not really a nonprofit or operating as a nonprofit.
No. But they're using all that donation money to compete against you. And all that, I mean, the donation money, the media, you know, because you could be dead right, but if they got, you know, 1 million followers and you only got 1,000 followers, you already know, being in media, what the public's going to think.
Okay. I wanted to ask a question about, because recently, you know, the Breonna Taylor thing in Kentucky, and Tamika Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother, said that the same thing. She's come out just like Tamir Wright's mother as well. Mm-hmm. And I did realize last month on March 12th, you had Tamika Mallory and Linda Sassour there. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on those two?
Tamika Mallory, she's basically an agent. She claims that she's part of the movement. She's not. She's not. She lied about that. She does the same thing that Black Lives Matter does so that they can get paid. Like, Samaria Rice's comments, like, we're dead on, you know, and a lot of us were thinking of things in a different light and we see things from a different perspective. But when she put it so plainly, like, I mean, I don't know if you saw her like bobbing and weaving, you know, pop locking, dropping, because that's exactly her. Like, she just wants attention to do whatever she wants to do, but she's not going to help the movement and she's fraudulently going to use it. It's the same with like the local protests. You know, she's going to want to come in and do her thing, but if, you know, a local protester wants to do something different, she's going to shut them down. You know, like, they distract.
My thing is with Tamika Mallory, and I realized when I was actually on a post with you the other day, she came and commented in the post.
Not to me. She didn't say nothing to me.
No, she was just commenting in the post. But I realized that she was behind that women's march, which also means that she's behind the LGBTQ issue. Because you're in a women's march, you kind of supporting the LGBTQ rights too. And they made her a player, but the Bree Knight started to give a speech to her because she grew up around Shopton. Anybody that grew up around Shopton, I gotta watch. Because Shopton ain't nothing but a butter licking coon. That's all he is, butter licking coon. So, and I realized that, but she did speak out a lot, but I wouldn't, the Cadillac commercial, but that was another false flag. But I realized that she's got the same agenda. She don't talk about black men. She said, I come from a strong line of women. So that's how you knew that. So, but I mean, like I said, they're all, big pimping. Right now. But I actually view Mallory as less dangerous than Cullors, but I do understand, but I do thank you for breaking it down and telling me that she's an agent.
Yeah, definitely. And she can, her, my sign, any of these people, Talib Kweli, anybody can come out and dispute me. They hide. They hide on social media, and that's how they get the game. Like, this has been the game for 6+ years, and this is why we're in the situation that we're in. Not to say that people wouldn't have done it anyways, but we don't need your help selling us out. You know what I'm saying? They could use white people to sabotage us. We didn't need y'all, trying to pretend to represent us to sell us out. Like, we didn't need that. And okay. It's there's just so much, and there's so many, different levels to it, because like it doesn't just involve the money. Like there's
let me just say the problem with her, which I didn't really have a problem with, but the problem is, like I always say, when you bring the traveling circus, Ben Crump and Shopton, and Ben Crump, he ain't, oh man, that's another one that they bring along on the traveling circus. And I find it mighty peculiar that the family of Ben Crump is also, the family of Deray Wright is represented by Ben Crump. So now you got 2 in 1. And Ben Crump is represented by Morgan and Morgan law firm in Florida. So he can't be, you ain't representing him in law. He's only licensed, he's not licensed to practice law everywhere, but he be everywhere. So, but Nika Miles' group was called Until Freedom, and she said that on the Grammy. She said Until Freedom, but a lot of people don't know Until Freedom is an organization where you donate. I would say don't donate any money to her. That's all I would say.
Yeah, don't donate to any of Black Lives Matter. Like, first of all, like outside of all this, and this is, everybody associates everything with activism. Why are you sabotaging business to not, like, first off, like you're not even getting us justice. But if you were going to do activism, why do you have to sabotage business? Couldn't they work together? Like those two are like two totally different areas, but they're both tied to the movement. So it's like, even if they were successful in their activism, like you're hurting us in another area. If that makes any, like the stuff that they're doing has ripple effects, because say like they didn't sabotage, the business arm of the movement that was going on. We could have had our own funding. We could say whatever we want because we have our own funding. The fact that they sold everything out and took all the resources out of our community, like that's all of our power. That's all of our leverage. It's just like the organizing. We're all organized. We're all united. Like this is what we're fighting for. That's our strength. We're all united. We can vote somebody out of office. We can, change a political party's platform. But they come in, they divide everybody up. Nobody has any power then. That's ultimately what happened. So now you can't even challenge the Democrats because you don't have a movement to challenge them. You are the Democrats. And that was the whole strategy of the movement. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, but we were organizing for a third party. That was our political stance. And the issues that we rallied around were the issues that we felt like our generation could agree upon to come together to push them past the two-party system. So that was a whole organizing strategy of another organizing strategy of the movement. And so with Deray talking about him being a COINTEL agent and not just, an opportunist out for profit, he was a Democrat. He fraudulently represented the movement. He defamed me for ever since he came onto the scene. And all of everything from there has been, I kind of lost my train of thought, but everything since then has been sabotage, like everything, like from what Ferguson was trying to do to things that were happening in other cities. Like the whole Black Lives Matter narrative starts with him coming in, fraudulently representing the movement, discrediting Ferguson, and then everything that everybody built from city to city to city was sabotaged from that point on. Like the entire movement was sabotaged from that point on. And we couldn't even get plans out. All that organizing, all those people we organized for months, and I organized for years prior to that, we couldn't even get plans out to them. They ended up kicking us off Twitter for exposing Deray. That's how my business got kicked off Twitter. It wasn't because I was, cussing or being profane or doing anything like against their terms. It was when I exposed Deray. And Jack Dorsey was working with Deray.
Let me ask you a question. What is so how did what's the boy name? I was talking to Yoda and she said really Kaepernick didn't have nothing to do with it until they used him as a face.
Yeah, yep.
She said he didn't even know what was going on.
He didn't reach out to anybody. He didn't reach out to anybody from Ferguson that I know of, or he didn't reach out to anybody from the movement. I know that. And I'm not criticizing him, but he didn't work with anybody from the grassroots, and he worked with all frauds who were stealing from us. He worked with Sean King. So, I mean, it helps bring awareness. What'd you say?
Work with Soros, too.
I'm sure he did. I mean, Tamika Mallory. Tamika Mallory got paid by him. Deray McKesson came through that network. Most of Black Lives Matter came through that network.
Okay, let me ask you a question about this Soros guy. I know a lot about him. I don't really like. He funds a lot of stuff. It ain't just like he funds a lot of stuff, right? But my thing is with him. I know a rich oligarch like George Soros ain't meeting with all these people, but they funneling through his network, Open Society Foundations, probably Change.org and others. Because you realize you cannot mention George Soros' name on TV without them saying you can't bring his name up. And you say George Soros, they're gonna say it's conspiracy theory that you're talking about. So I realized that about him. But I do find it mighty odd that these people, like when I looked at and shout out to Queen Ahmadiyya Shakur, who's in the building, and she actually had a video she was doing, and they disclosed the funds of Miss Mallory, and it was in the millions of dollars, and they ended up kicking them off the air. I mean, kicking them off the YouTube video, and I think she was banned for a week. But so they when you expose these guys, the way you find out to us, they be considered enemies of the state, but to them, they state agents anyway, because you criticize them in a way, Twitter will block you and stop you from what you're doing. That's how you find out who's really working with who.
Yep.
Even Jason Whitlock, who I don't like that well, but Jason Whitlock was banned on Twitter for talking about Patrisse Cullors.
Yep.
So
they profited. Twitter profited.
Okay, now let me ask a question about the guy. What's his name? Talib Kweli. You were talking about Talib.
Yep.
So explain Talib Kweli's role.
Just another agent to cause confusion and lie to prop Black Lives Matter to steal from people. So he would try to say he's affiliated to things that he's not, just to do whatever he wanted to do. That's about it. I heard some stories about him raising funds for bail and the funds not reaching people once they got locked up. But I mean, basically he spent all his time on Twitter just like trying to tear down leaders, like who were actually doing stuff. Nobody really takes him serious anyway. So I guess, he's not a threat. Like he's not a threat. He's an agent, but he's not a threat to us. Maybe for other audience, I don't know, but you can see through his stuff pretty fast. But I mean, they would use celebrities to try to give Black Lives Matter credibility. And it's funny because a lot of Hollywood didn't sell out. You know, there was people that sold out, but there was a lot of people who backed away once they saw what was going on and didn't do anything, more than that sold out. You know, so even, you know, you could kind of see in Hollywood, you know, because this is media related, you know, those who supported what was going on and then those who sold out and tried to exploit, you know, what was going on.
Well, I have some things to say about BLM because BLM is actually connected now to the Chinese Communist Party. And if you ever realize and you look at it, look at the athletes you see supporting it. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, these type of characters, you know, NFL. Now look, nobody, come on, man. If this is and matter of fact, they are trained Marxist organization, by the way. If Patrisse Cullors will tell you that out of her own mouth. They just outright communists anyway. But here's the problem I have. If you're black and it's in your brain, this thing is getting national exposure where people are actually, you know, putting it on a shirt on the back of their names on jerseys and stuff. Something should ring in your mind and tell you this is way bigger than some people protesting for social. And then what social justice is a question, because I was realizing a couple of days ago, BLM had a sign up on a couple weeks ago, man. What's one of the number one hashtags on Twitter now? Stop Asian hate. BLM is backing that. So they put on any trend that the media is going, and they actually have media entities in the media to speak for them like a mouthpiece.
Yep.
But I had some friends in Chicago that had BLM come to the neighborhood, and they told BLM, "You're not allowed to come here." They tried to come in the hood, and they said, "No, you ain't coming here." So, and I do know that King Darren Seals, shout out to him. There were areas of Ferguson where y'all, if you weren't there, but the other people had told people like Deray and Netta and them, y'all not allowed to come in our presence anymore. So that was good. But I just don't understand, you know, when you got a leader like D. Seals, they had to defame his character too to make him, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So explain that.
And they were coordinated. They were coordinated. So one person is going to say this, it's another person being paid by Black Lives Matter. They're going to co-sign, you know, like, yeah, they defamed him. That was their strategy. But continue on, because, yeah, that's what they did. They did it to everybody. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, they just picked random people and those were the people attacked. They attacked every single leader who would not go along with Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
Yeah, and you could go around and ask, like, and even locally, like they were doing stuff locally. Like you kind of had like the national movement, which is like more of the people that you know, like who helped start things initially. Like they're kind of more of the national face, but even locally, as things were spreading, they were still going around and sabotaging organizers, sabotaging activists, sabotaging families. So like they are professional con artists. Like they are professional. They are professional. They will, you know, cause so much confusion and, you know, like for them, just somebody not knowing is a win. Like these are professional liars, you know, and that's why like this is so important, and having them in a public space to where they can't lie is so important, because they wouldn't have been able to get away with anything. And that's something like, if we're going to ever have, you know, a legit Black movement, you got to be accessible to the public. Because if we would have had some type of forum where Black people could have asked questions, you know, and they had to actually answer questions, none of this would have happened. You know, and I was talking to my best friend today, and I was like, they've never had like a public forum where you can just go in and ask some questions. Like, how do you represent the public and we can't even get access to you? And I mean, it's because they're not a grassroots movement and they're an AstroTurf, but like think about that. Like, okay, you claim you fighting white supremacy, blah, blah, blah. Like, what do all their tactics look like?
A bunch of white people out there.
Because we all talked and we knew. So we knew the deal. But we couldn't get any access to actually get to the public. So it didn't matter. People called us crazy and attacked us. They told me to shut up about it. You know, and it's like, we're literally at a point where they got away with murder. We got people saying, no, like, this isn't right. Like, we got to do something. You got people telling those people to shut up. Just don't worry about it. Like,
the question I have to ask is, you saying 2016 WikiLeaks, they also were trying to hijack the election in 2016?
No, they were using Deray and they were using Black Lives Matter to control the election, to influence the election. So they were controlling the messaging, the issues that they want you to fight for, because once they had Black Lives Matter in the forefront, that they use that as our representative. And at that time, like, a majority of us didn't know what was going on, because it took us time, like, to go like, okay, like, these are just opportunists, to like, okay, these are paid opportunists, to like, no, these people are actually connected to the government and being protected by them. So it was a process before we could all put everything together where they were able to get away with, you know, certain things. But once they established them as representing Black people, it's like, let me think of an issue. I don't know. Save the dogs. We're out getting killed, and Black Lives Matter starts doing the Save the Dogs campaign. Well, there's going to be enough black people who go and, we need to go and save the dogs, just because it's the messaging coming from Black Lives Matter, who are not going to think through it. So yeah, you get some people over here are going to be like, what the hell are y'all doing? Like, they're not even protecting us. You want to protect the dogs, but that still serves a purpose for those people who don't want to give us justice. And so with Black Lives Matter, they were controlling the messaging, just like, okay, like, we're down in the street. Police corruption is, you know, the number one issue. Now we're going to make it a women's issue. And there's not even men involved in what's going on, because Mike Brown's a man, but you took all the attention away from police corruption and you made it a women's issue. And then not only did you make it a women's issue, now you got people fighting. You got infighting over it. So now you're not fighting the police. You're fighting over you're fighting over an issue that's not even related to the police. Black Lives Matter's getting the bag. Like, and we look like fools on television, and they're getting away with it because we have no access to media, because they sold out our media. Like, that's why I say there's layers to this. Like, context matters, timing matters. Like, they were strategic in how they sabotage.
Once again, what I'm saying though, you had what I call like you had some people at the top, like from Obama, Biden, Democrat politicians that knew that y'all had something coming off the ground that could have been special. They wanted to hijack before it got off the top.
Yep.
Because they knew that y'all were doing this.
Yeah, they knew. Obama actually called, like, the person who was supposed to be my original news guy. So, I mean, you know, I mean, it's funny, like, when you go back, like, as this story breaks and people go back and you look at the connections, because now it's like people can't hide as good as they did at the beginning. You're going to be like, how did we not figure this out? Because it was confusing to me. Like, we got to a certain point, you know, business-wise, where I was just like, they can't co-opt us. Like, there's no way that they can co-opt us. They co-opted the entire city. Like, as far as media goes.
Okay, now I know this year they came back to prominence, but they had went away for a long time. I mean, they was out there, but they was like kind of like ding on the surface.
They quit.
They bring them up during election time mostly.
They quit. They actually quit. And then when George Floyd got killed, they came back out to collect more donations. Yeah, they quit. Literally. After they stole all the money, they quit. They never had any plans or anything like that. Like, in the middle of everything getting exposed, they just up and quit. No justice, no nothing. So not only did you steal all the money, but after you stole all the money, you quit. and still were defaming people. Like, you out the game, you still defaming people like that's in the game working. And it's still, I mean, now they moved to mothers. Like, it went from actual organizers to now you're defaming mothers. And it worked. Like, if you see like the people in Hollywood and some of those people in LA that I'm calling out right now, trying to take up for them, it's working. Like, we got to protect Patrisse Cullors. Like, you protecting the abuser so that she can abuse more people so that we can continue to die. Like, and you're putting your professional name on it. Like, you're putting your professional name on it. So you're discrediting me. You're discrediting people from Ferguson. You're discrediting all these black people and calling them liars and affecting them professionally. You're affecting their reputation because they're trying to use their status and their reputation, because those are the people who supported Black Lives Matter, to give credibility to Patrisse, who did all these things, who sabotaged the entire movement, who like buying houses and somebody's asking just for money, $5,000 to bury their kid, and you can't give them that.
So let me ask a question. You had Shopton and Jesse Jackson coming in there. So how did y'all feel about that?
I just go off their reactions. I think one of them got ran out and one of them got booed, if I remember correctly. They were never really welcome. Al Sharpton especially. And he came in criticizing, and like y'all don't even have contact information, stuff like that. Like, they were trying to kill protesters. Like, no lie, some people are not here. Like, I don't have a lot of personal information. Like, I'm just now getting to the point where I'll make put certain things on LinkedIn, because back then people are literally looking for you. Like, it was dangerous. So, like, you're trying to make it like this is some like MSNBC presentation. They're killing us. Like, you want somebody to put their address out there, like, and you got, like, it could be the police, it could be racist, it could be Black Lives Matter because they're on that mode. Like, you never know, So he came in, he criticized, he didn't offer any resources. He could have given people a platform to talk. He didn't, and then he comes back, sends in this Tamika Mallory chick, or I guess vouches for her. And it's like, man, you failed and you sent back in an agent, like, 6 years, like, people need to come out in public and answer questions, and you will figure out that, like, it's more ridiculous than anything that you could have thought of. It's like the stuff that they did, like, and how they're trying to downplay things right now. Like, even like when they talk about the money, like Patrisse is saying, oh, well, I only get, a salary of $120,000 or something like that. Like, no, like, we're not stupid. Like, you put that on your resume that I'm the founder of Black Lives Matter. Why did you put that out there? Because you wanted the money. Why did you center yourself in the front of the movement that you don't own, you didn't start, you're not a part of? Because you wanted money. You wanted the spotlight to do what you wanted to do. So she's making bukus of money off of Black Lives Matter. And she makes it in different ways. Sean King was paying her, I believe, from his Justice PAC, was paying her. So, I mean, these people make money. She's getting speaking fees. So, speaking about a movement that I started and the people in Ferguson started, while discrediting them. And they're the ones that are actually doing the work that if I need something done, I can actually go to and help or get some help. Like,
well, I looked at it like this. During this year's presidential campaign, a lot of people saying Joe Biden says he supports Black Lives Matter. Of course I support it because I'm funding it. Or I got people funding it behind me. But this is like I said, this has nothing to do with ordinary black folks. Matter of fact, it ain't got to do with black folks at all, except a few puppets out there pushing it. Because this is a white homosexual movement for the most part.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but they don't even own the brand. Like, that's anyways.
What is called Black Lives Matter Global Incorporated. So I want you to tell me some things. Where are you trying to take this to the next level? Because, like I said, might have to be a 2 or 3 part series on things. So where are we trying to go with this?
I mean, right now, what we've been trying to do is expose Black Lives Matter because we can't get any work done. Anytime we try to do something, we run into issues with them trying to co-opt what we're doing or whatever, you know. And at this point, I think if anybody has success from the movement, it's going to bring enough exposure to where it exposes Black Lives Matter. So you got that whole dynamic of the people who didn't sell out. Now they got to go through all them other people because if they do make it through, it's going to expose their whole game. So it's like you got like a few Black Lives Matter people at the top. Then you got all the people underneath that are actually doing all of the work. And all the money's going to the Black Lives Matter people. All the media coverage is going to the Black Lives Matter people. And the people underneath are literally like getting silenced or worse. I mean, there's activists that aren't here right now. So it's like, first thing I think is like recovering the organizing so that we know who's who, you know, and so that we don't have another Black Lives Matter because they'll do it again if we get ahead again. And we got to figure out how they did it the first time, what the game is, and then how we're going to protect it from happening again. Because
how they going to protect it from happening again?
Yeah. And I mean, I've done some steps, you know, with what I'm doing and what I'm bringing out next will solve that issue for the people that are within the movement. But for the people that are outside the movement, still like, you know, I care about everybody, you know, and I care about us. And I want to, my entire plan the first time was to create systems, you know, that are going to keep us safe. But to me, that's like number one. And I think if Black Lives Matter gets exposed this time, they're not going to happen again. It's not going to happen again because of what they actually did and what people experienced. Like it was so bad for the people that are going through it, you know, and then for the people who were able to see what's going on and understand that I don't think it would happen again. People aren't going to go through that again.
So what you're saying? You're trying to bury them, put them under. Basically.
Yeah, you can't come clean. I mean, if they can't come clean, they're like, and they can't rebuild what they destroyed. First off, we got undercut. So that Black Lives Matter can brag about them donations all they want. We got undercut, and she can't come out and say nothing on that. So all them donations that they gave us, it don't add up. So if you want to look at it from purely economic standpoint, what Black Lives Matter is doing is holding us back. From a political standpoint, what Black Lives Matter is doing, they're not allowing any Black leaders to rise because the ones that rise through that organization are compromised, every single one. And you can verify that with people all the way around the country. And then it's like socially, they're not debating things. Like they're not, you know, asking the community, hey, do y'all want to like support this? Or, you know, like, do y'all want to address this social issue? Like, they're coming from outside of our community and doing things. And what I've learned with their leadership is they're not connected to the Black community in any shape or form. So it's like people from outside our community looking at issues, man, and thinking like, I use an example that if men aren't as masculine as they say Black men are, that it'll reduce crime. And this is like something that, you know, in academia that they'll really push, you know, like, oh, it's our masculinity. You know, toxic masculinity is a problem. So we need to make the Black male more effeminate so that they're not as violent, you know, or not even the Black male, but just men in general. And that's where that whole concept comes. And it's like, if you're just being fed something from, you know, an institution and you're not able to debate it, like that could be completely wrong, like however you feel about it. But the thing with Black Lives Matter is we're not even going through that process. They're just coming out and they're pushing messaging on our people.
Hold on one second, brother.
Yeah, no problem.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, you thought you were watching. Are you watching?
Is that Yoda?
Oh, no, I'm doing a show.
Oh, you doing a show? Okay. I ain't talking to you tomorrow.
No, I sent it to you.
Huh?
I think I sent it to you, didn't I?
I was on with Cooligan and Rex crazy ass.
Oh, okay.
For 2 hours.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay. Well, yeah, okay, thanks. Okay. Yeah. But go ahead.
I think I kind of finished my point. I kind of forgot the question.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and say it. Yeah, go ahead. No, you're talking about BLM and you're talking about where you want to accomplish.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first, like exposing what happened, because it's not just me. I mean, there's so many people. Like, there's literally hundreds. Like, Sean King got at least 100 by himself, but there's literally hundreds of people that have been abused all across the country. Some that may not have recovered. So, first is, getting some type of justice for the people that are in the movement and that have been abused by Black Lives Matter. And then second is my reputation and, what I'm trying to do with my business. Like, they've done so much damage. It's like, we need them out of the way so that we can move forward.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we got to help get them out the way. We got to do something to them, because they are really starting to, as what we call, they're really not. But actually, they're stalling out because a lot of people see the game now, so that's good. But they are in our way. Yes, I'm looking at the comments here. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me tell you something, brother. I do thank you for, coming on because this is actually very, very insightful. You got any other things that you could tell me? Anything that we can? I can advance some support or something. You need to because you need to get this information out.
Yeah.
Right now, but you kind of need to stay underneath the surface too.
That's true too. And I was kind of hesitant about doing this interview, but with Neota, I had to do it. I mean, you can go right now to takingbacktheradio.com to kind of get a history because we documented everything that, happened from the beginning of the movement up until maybe about 2 years ago. So it'll give you the history of Ferguson, the history of the movement, Taking Back the Radio, and Black Lives Matter. Other than that, I mean, we have we're going to have our platform back out later this year, and that's something that's going to be available to the entire public. And I have to actually get a link to you about something that we've got coming up now, and that's what you really want to be a part of, to be perfectly honest, because Black Lives Matter has been saying that they've been the movement the whole time, and now we're about to show you the movement. So, like, I had no anticipation of this story breaking or the mothers being able to, get this much public attention on them. But when we came out with the movement, you were going to see that Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with what we're trying to do. And you would see the difference. And they would be exposed that way. So, I mean, really, like, I'd already, I guess, been in motion to try to fix the problem, while we're trying to expose things. So as far as like financing and stuff like that, like, we know how to do what we need to do. Our issue is Black Lives Matter taking credit for our work and then discrediting us. And so anybody who doesn't know us or is not familiar with the movement, we're not able to have any credibility from the defamation that they did.
Well, I think that you was able to come on and able to enlighten us because we got to do a couple more of these sessions on this. So when the order comes on, I'm gonna get her on, and then we're gonna have to do a double take. Both of y'all.
Yeah, she knows like Ferguson and all those details, and I kind of know more like the media side of stuff, even though she knows that side as well. But that's kind of the breakdown.
Yeah. Yes, I will, Terry Harden. Well, I'm glad that you actually was able to break this. A lot of stuff I had read, but I like to hear from somebody who knew how it got jumped off and when it jumped off. And so I appreciate what you're doing. Well, do you got like a someday somebody can donate to you or anything? Or?
Man, I get the story out. I mean, I should say it, because I mean, I didn't make any money off of that. I'm not rich.
Okay.
I fund things myself. I don't even have a Patreon. Like, I gave up on donating because they wouldn't even nothing came my way. But I mean, if she goes to takeitbacktheradio.com, there, I can put up a link on there if the story, gets out. But I need as far as the money goes and people in the movement, and I actually made a statement about this, and I'm glad that came up. But my primary concern wasn't trying to claim the compensation, even though from a legal standing they collected money off of the movement. But those funds need to go to the victims' families. They need to go to the people who are actually doing the work in the movement. There was activists that aren't here anymore. I think their families need compensation. Black Lives Matter's funds needs to be seized, and they need to go where they were supposed to go. And my plan initially was not for our company to have all of the funds. We were literally trying to help fund the movement. So, people did actual work. People have put in actual time. So, I mean, I would like the people who actually did, worked in the movement to be funded. Media, people who break these stories, like yourself, hands up, don't shoot, companies that are doing the right thing, people that are doing the right thing. That's what this all started about. And those people never got funded because we just got overwhelmed by opportunists, and I can do what I need to do with my brand and without them interfering with my work. I can do what I need to do. But that's kind of how I feel about, funding at this point,
Okay. Well, I'm going to say this to you. I want to wish you peace and blessings, brother. I would get this story out. Actually, to tell you the truth, I'm probably going to have you get on some people that's connected to me, and maybe you can get it on their platforms. People who have more followers than I got. Maybe in a radio show or something. We'll try to get it out, man. I'm just glad that you were able to come on. And I do know that I understand why you were hesitant, because Neota, she's kind of hesitant too. But hey, it is what it is.
We got to do it.
I thank you for coming out of the hesitancy, because that's what it's gonna take. Can't be hesitant these times, because why you being hesitant?
Yeah,
BLM is scamming a lot of people.
Yep. I'm glad that you had me, and I'm glad I got to come to your show. And it even ties in. I was thinking about that too. I was like, it even ties into what we were trying to do initially. So I definitely want you to be part of what we're doing. So I'll definitely get you connected through Neota and get you in there, because it's once you see what we're doing, you won't feel as bad about the Black Lives Matter stuff. There is something good, at the end of all of this that we've done. I kind of created to counter what they were doing, but yeah, I'll get you linked up with what we're doing, and you'll get to see it. So when you see them start doing stuff, if they do, you'll see it firsthand.
Yeah, because I know they got these little think tanks. They thinking just like you thinking they in a little think tank, and now what next scam they gonna do?
Yep.
But I just want you to take your time. Peace and blessings. And hey, I'm gonna get into Yodi on soon, and then we're gonna have to do it both of y'all at the same time.
I'm down, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time, man.
You too, brother.
All right, have a good night.
You too, brother.